Welcome to Stuff You Missed in History Class, a production of iHeartRadio. Hello and happy Friday. I'm Holly Fry.
And I'm Tracy V. Wilson.
And we talked about Ghosts of Drury Lane, which I love very much because they're just super fun. I really, really liked the quote that we included at the end about how theater is kind of inherently given to ghost sighting.
Yeah.
Because of its nature.
Yeah.
There was one article I read by an actor, it was from some time back, who was in the middle of a play run there, and he took the ghost tour on one of his days off, and he was talking about how, he had never seen a ghost, and some of the stories are very like, meh, whatever, and he was like, but then when I got down lower where apparently some of the old foundation can be seen of the third theater or second theater, one of the two, he was like, I see where this could be spooky and make people think they saw things, because it's just an inherently, scary, dark place where there's lots of, everything's blacked out because most theaters are painted black in the back end.
Yeah.
You could see some of the old beams from previous versions of the theater. There was apparently, I want to say it was in 1939, and I did not include it because of this, a story that an entire cast saw the man in gray at the same time.
Wow.
And that, clearly this was evidence that he was real. But that's been chalked up by a lot of people to a publicity stunt on the part of the theater manager to kind of, bolster ticket sales, and that really, there aren't a lot of actual accounts from that cast saying, yes, we all saw the same thing. The other thing that I loved, that I kept turning up no matter what I was looking for, even if I was trying to look at very old things, was article after article of Patrick Stewart talking about the many ghosts he has seen in his life.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. He was doing, famously, a while back, he and Ian McKellen did Waiting for Godot together at Theatre Royal Haymarket. But one of the big stories that came out during that was that he kept saying that he was seeing a ghost in the theater. And I just sort of loved it. There were also many discussions of articles that I would not include because they mentioned the play whose name I am still too superstitious to say aloud.
Yeah.
The Scottish
I
play.
wrote it into a podcast one time, not knowing that your superstition about it extended beyond the walls of a theater.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't ever. No, thank you. It's very silly. I know that's silly. And yet there's a part of my brain that just refuses. It will shut down. Unless you are in situ, in the middle of that play, having to say the name, you don't say that name.
Can you say the name historically about people with the name?
I guess, but it would be, I wouldn't look for that.
Okay.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
If it were on my list of topics to cover, I would scratch it out and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I know, again, I know this is silly. No one needs to tell me.
Right.
You're being a ding-dong that is not having a rational reaction.
Yeah.
I know. It's one of my things I'm superstitious about.
I had always understood it as a superstition about things that should not be said in a theater. And it had never occurred to me that it could be extended beyond to the theater of life.
I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things, right? My degree is in theater and film study.
Yeah.
And so I feel like maybe it's just so ingrained I will never, ever say it anywhere ever in case. You don't know, maybe where you're standing used to be a theater at one time. We don't know all the stuff that's been there. You got to be safe.
Yeah.
The theater of life says no.
Yeah.
I've had many friends who just to taunt me would just say it over and over. And I'd be like, get out of my house, get out of my party, whatever you do. We're not, no.
Not having it.
No, not for me. I will say also, I want to do an episode, and there probably will be one in the not too distant future, on Dan Leno, because I loved reading about his life.
Yeah.
Particularly, I mean, as tragic as it becomes in the end, just how much work he did to take care of other people with his fame. He's one of those people who found himself with an extraordinary amount of privilege financially and a platform that he could use to help other people, and he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about those kind of people all day, every day, especially lately. This seems like a good time to ask you. I know we've done this at live shows before.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
So, I've had a couple of unexplained experiences. The creepiest one, when I was in massage school, some family friends generously allowed me to rent a small cabin that had been passed down in their family that was up in the mountains. And the first night that I was there, I went into it had an old part that was well over like over a century old, like made of logs, no original plumbing or electricity that had all been added much later. And then it had this like mother-in-law edition that had been built out of a kit. And I was staying in the kit part, and I walked into the old part after dark the first night that I was there, and immediately was like, something malevolent is in this place. And I left and shut the door behind me and never went back into there after dark ever again. And I also, like, I didn't want to look at it after dark because I was afraid something was going to look back at me out the window. And then what would I do? Like, I was
Right.
in the woods with no one around to help.
I would not be in this position to begin with.
Yeah. So one night I heard something very strange outside that frightened me, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I realized the next day it was apples falling out of the tree. And I was like, okay, well, that explains that one part, but not how when I walked in there, all the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I would say all of the theaters that I was in as like a participant in the play or the musical, they were all creepy.
Yeah.
Like all of them. I mean, they're big, open, cavernous spaces that until you actually do the performance is empty, aside from the people participating in the play and the crew and the director and all of that. Like,
Right.
you're just in this big, echoey, dark space with a lot of shadows and a lot of corners, and they were all creepy. When I was a massage therapist at the Grove Park Inn, there are lots of stories about the ghosts at the Grove Park Inn. And the most direct experience I ever had there was we were in the spa, and I was talking to a couple of the staff that like arranged appointments and stuff. And a spoon from the counter where we made drinks for people just launched itself onto the ground. And we were all like, what did that?
Qua.
No one was near, but no one was near it. No one was nearby. Like, it wasn't like it was precariously on the edge of the counter. I don't know what caused that. It did not scare me nearly as much as the old cabin that I stayed in massage school.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been in an old cabin in the woods to begin with. No.
There was also the very first day that Patrick and I spent in this house. We did not have any cats at this time. But we had the long, grueling day of moving our stuff from the one place to the new place. And we had put sheets on the bed, and we got into bed. And I think Patrick was like in the bathroom. Patrick hadn't come to bed yet. And I had the distinct sensation of a cat jumping onto the bed. And we had no cats at that time. And I was not frightened by this. I was just like, there's a ghost cat in the house. And the ghost cat has not made any other visit.
We had a ghost cat.
Yeah.
I know I've told this one during a live show, but I don't remember if I've ever said it on the recorded podcast before. There was a time we were in our old apartment where I had been seeing out of the corner of my eye a cat that wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I discovered when I finally mentioned it one day that Brian had also been seeing a cat out of the corner of his eye that was not there. And we had cats at the time, but it was not one of our cats. Like, we would think, oh, that's Gigi or whatever, and we'd look over and there was no cat there.
Yeah.
And then there was a night where we were sitting in the living room of our dinky little apartment watching TV, and we both, clear as a bell, heard my dead mother's voice.
Oh, wow.
And it was weird. I don't know if there was just someone in an adjacent apartment that sounded just like her and the sound traveled exactly right. But we like looked at each other like, did you just hear that? It was weird. And then the next day, the cat was real. But he had a brother and we kept them both. So I've always joked, because my relationship with my mom was not amazing.
Right.
But she is exactly the kind of person that would dump a stray cat on me, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
she was like, that was probably her way to try to reach out. If in fact there was a ghost involved, that she was like, you like kitties, here's kitties. I'll bring you great kitties that you wanted. We had those cats for 20 years. We loved them.
Yeah.
I used to work in a college library that was very old and castle-like. And for a while, Brian was working for a Dutch weather company, so he worked Dutch hours.
Right.
And they let me work the same hours as him, so our lives matched up, because I was down in acquisitions. I was not like working the desk and stuff. And so I would get there sometimes at like, I would be there in the middle of the night, or get there, start my shift at 4 a.m. Like, it shifted, but I would be there alone in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to how you described that cabin, there were just parts of that building that felt weird.
Yeah.
And I was like not interested in going in them. So there was like, if I had to go to the bathroom, I had to walk through part of it, and it always scared the heck out of me. But I did it. And then the one real what just happened to me moment that I have ever had was in San Francisco at a hotel that is reportedly haunted. And we had been joking, like, hey, I wonder if we'll hear ghosts. And at first we heard this weird ringing noise, and we finally realized that there was like inside the wall a loose-ish plumbing washer that was jingling.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, oh, fully explained. And then later in that same trip, Brian was taking a shower, and I was like, I'm going to just lie down on the bed for a minute, take a nap. And I felt clear as any actual physical thing I have ever felt. The feeling of like fingers scratching lightly on my back. And I just said, no, thank you. And that was the end of that. I mean, I don't know. I may have just been having some weird... Listen, we are both women of science in our hearts.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes weird stuff happens. I don't know what it was.
I honestly, I did not like the fact that when I walked into this old cabin, that it made me feel like something malevolent was there. Because the people who loaned it to me were so nice. They were great people. It was like a cabin that had been handed down through the family, and there was just stuff in it that was so interesting, and a lot of it was really beautiful. And I would have just explored all through it, happy as a clam. But even though it had, like, the first day that I had gone up there, and they had sort of shown me, like, here's how you have to turn the water off from the outside and, like, this kind of stuff. I was like, man, this is going to be so great. I'm going to be up here 2 or 3 nights a week. This is such a great space. I love it. And then after the first night, I was like, no, there's nothing in that house that I need to see. And I never need to lie in a hammock on the porch again, because what I had been doing when I went in there after dark was to put the hammock away because it was a fabric hammock that they didn't want to be left out because it would get mildew.
Right.
And I was like, well, nope, no more of that for me ever. Great. We talked about ghost towns this week.
Sure did.
I didn't put in my normal introduction about 6 Impossible episodes and how it's when I round up 6 things that are related, usually somehow, and for some reason or another, can't really be a whole episode. And if we did a full-on history of some of these, it would probably be possible to do a whole episode. But I thought they were fun together as a whole collection of ghost towns.
Yeah.
Something I cannot take any kind of credit for, but that I really liked, because this was 100% listener suggestions. So they were the topics that listeners asked for. I liked that these were 6 towns that were all, with the exception of Jerome, abandoned. But it wasn't the same story all 6 times.
Right. Yeah.
Like, all of them I felt like had very different nuances, and even the ones that were like, this was a boom town, and then it disappeared, like, those also were not identical in terms of exactly what happened. Because when I, kind of went through and wrote down all the ghost town suggestions, I was like, "Is this gonna be 6 of the same story?" And it wasn't. So thanks everyone who contributed one of these ideas.
I had a semi-mental retraction after something I said during recording.
Okay.
Because when we were talking about Centralia, and I was like, this seems surprising to me that people would stay there for a decade while this burned out their town.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, Holly, how much do you love your house, and how unwilling would you be to leave it? And the answer is
Yeah.
quite a lot, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I also framed it as, like, people dealing with it for a decade, and it was like, when the fire first started and it was more contained, it wasn't that big of a deal. So this, like, people were just dealing with it for more than a decade. The fire had been burning for more than a decade at that point, but it was, like, more than a decade of it really affecting life in the town on a day-to-day level.
Yeah, it's also, like, most people can't just afford to pick up and leave.
Right.
And find a new place to live.
That is a refrain so many times, in so many contexts, historically and today.
Yeah.
There will be well, why don't people just move if it's so bad? And it's like, a lot of people don't have the money to just move, or they have family ties to a place, or like you just said, they love their house, and that's their house, and it's their home, and they don't want to leave their home. I similarly have trouble imagining living in a place where there are toxic gases seeping out of the ground, and possibly a sinkhole just opening up in your backyard one day, or under your house, or whatever. Sinkholes being one of my weird fears.
Oh,
What if
really?
one day my house... Yeah, I'm just like, what if one day my house suddenly falls into a sinkhole?
I had no idea.
Wouldn't that be terrible and terrifying?
It would.
But, like, yeah, if that were actually my house that I had bought and that I had put love and work into and had raised a family in or whatever, like, I might not want to leave it either.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The Centralia story being associated with the Silent Hill franchise, I didn't realize until doing this that really was about the movie and not the original video game, because I have not seen the movie or played the video game, but I knew that there was a connection.
Boy, it's been a million years since I played that video game. I don't think I could conjure many details from it.
Yeah. The photos of a lot of these places, regardless of whether they are rumored to have some kind of ghost story attached, the photos of a lot of these places are really eerie. I mean, because Bodie looks like the prototypical ghost town that
Right.
with buildings, they're kind of falling apart, and the remaining chimneys and smokestacks and old Cahaba that kind of come up out of the ground out of nowhere. That's its own level of eeriness. Having a place where the one thing remaining is the cemetery, that's not that uncommon, but it's also so remote that it's sort of like, here is a cemetery with really nothing around it now.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like all of these are kind of eerie in their own way. And then, of course, Jerome, which is like, from my understanding at least, a cute little town where tourists can go and have ghost tours and look at a bunch of art and
Sounds
have
amazing.
some wine. And I would do that. That would be a great little trip, in my opinion.
It sounds amazing. Although then when we had the statistic in there that like 450 people live there, I was like, no.
That is very small.
No. That's too many people knowing all my business. I don't.
Yeah.
Nope.
I was scrolling through somebody's blog post of photos from their trip they took to Jerome, and one of the pictures was of an Artomat, and every time I see an Artomat, I get excited.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I've told the Artomat story on the podcast before, but I'm going to now. So once upon a time, you could buy cigarettes from vending machines in the United States. You know this, of course, Holly, but our younger audience members may not know this, that you could just put money into a vending machine and get a pack of cigarettes. And when those machines eventually were outlawed, a lot of them were still around. And so an artist converted one into an art vending machine with little works of art the size and shape of a pack of cigarettes. And the first one of these machines was at a coffee shop called Penny University, which is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which was one of the coffee shops that I spent some time at when I was freshly out of college. And so now, anytime I am anywhere and I see an Artomat, I buy something out of it.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great. And I feel like there used to be one in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, but I may be misremembering that. When I looked at the map of where they are located, because there's a big map showing where they are, and they're all over the world at this point, there was not one at the MFA.
It's possible there was one there and it got shipped elsewhere because they do move sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, I love the Artomat, and I love getting a little thing that pops out of it and being surprised by whatever little piece of art I have found.
It's the best.
So yeah, I think this was my final October contribution to this year's October episodes. And it only kind of skirted the world of the eerie and ghostly, but it was fun.
I know. I feel like this year I haven't been as spooky ooky as I usually am.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I had a werewolf episode, so
I'm very in Skeptical Village anymore. I'm like, it's not real. I don't know if this is my age speaking or what, but
yeah. Well, whatever's happening on your weekends, if you want a chance to go out and look at some art, I hope you get to look at some art. If there is an Artomat and you get a little cigarette package sized piece of art, I hope it is something that surprises and delights you. Whatever's happening in your world, boy, do I hope it is going as smoothly as is absolutely possible. I know there's a lot going on, and a lot of it's not going smoothly. So whatever's happening, I hope it is as easy as is possible. We will be back with a Saturday Classic tomorrow. We will have something brand new on Monday. Stuff You Missed in History Class is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.